Hello, I'm Gunther, creator of AgNote. First, thank you so much for registering a trial account. Your account may appear a little empty now, but that's because we don't have any farm fields added yet. I do understand your time is very valuable, but please do watch this Getting Started guide. It is a high-level overview, but it will give you a good idea on how your crop data will be managed inside AgNote. After account creation, the first thing we need to do is add farm fields to our account. We can do that by going to administration, and so we can add a property from within companies management area or properties management area. By the way, companies in AgNote are farms and properties are the farm fields. But since we just created the account, we can click on this link, add farm fields. So let's click on it, and then we need to navigate to where our farm is at. Next, we need to outline the field boundaries, and that's quite easy. So if the field shape is rectangular, we would use that rectangular tool from the toolbar. Just click and drag to outline the field. If the field shape is circle, like a pivot for example, we would use the circle tool. Let me delete that. And finally, if the field shape is a little more complex, we can use this polygon tool. With polygon tool selected, now we will need to click on each corner of the field to outline the field shape. That center mark that you see on the screen is a location where the field label is going to be. It is a draggable point, so we can easily reposition it. And once we have the shape the way we want it, we click on this plus button on a toolbar. And that will open a form where we can fill in the property, irrigation system, and current planting information. For property, we need to fill in the property name and acreage. For acreage, please do make sure that the acreage matches what you have on your permit. It is very important because AgNote will use this acreage in many calculations to calculate yields, costs, so it's very important that we have the acreage correct here. Then we have a few more fields that we can fill in here, but they're not required. The one thing I do want to point out is every time you see a field label on a form with this dotted line underneath, that means there's a tooltip. If you hover over it, it will give you a little description what information is required. Let's click Next. Now we need to fill in the irrigation system information. This information is more useful for permanent crops, but still it is a required information, so we need to fill in. So I know this field has flood irrigation, so that's where I'm going to select, and then click Next. And in a third step, we need to let AgNote know what crop is planted in this field. So the options are, it can be fallowed, it can be permanent crop, it can be produce or vegetable crop, or row crop. So I'm going to select row crop, and for crop, I'm going to select corn. But notice that button to the right. If you don't see the option you need on the list on this drop down, you can always add it yourself. Just click on that button and type that option in. So I'm going to select corn. Next, I'm going to select this corn variety. For planting rate, I'm going to select this 32,000 kernels. And finally, I'm going to select the planting date. And when all that is filled in, just click Save. And our property, irrigation system, and current planting information has been saved. To speed things up, I recommend adding fields with the same crop right after each other. So for example, the last field we just added had corn in it. So if we do have other fields with the corn planted, I would add them next. So I'm going to select this field. I'm going to click OK or Add, name it. I'm going to make sure that acreage is correct. Click Next. So the irrigation system is the same. I'm clicking Next. Corn information is the same as well. The only thing here I may change is the planting date. So I'm going to change that and save. And our next field is added. And how about we add one more field? So we outline it. We click on Add. We name it. We make sure that the acreage is correct. Click Next, Next, and Save. And our third field has been added. You probably noticed that AgNote remembers a lot of the information from the previous field. So adding fields with similar crops right after each other will speed things up. And while we're on a map, let's add one more field, but this time permanent field, almond field. So I'm going to navigate to this area and I'm going to outline this field here. But this field belongs to a different farm or different company. So I can add a different farm or create a different farm right here on a form. All I need to do is click on that Add to List button and type in my new farm's name. And from there, just like previously, and we need to give the property a name. We need to confirm that acreage is correct. Click Next. Now I'm going to select a different irrigation system. Click Next. On Planting Details form, for crop type, I'm going to choose permanent crop. Crop is going to be almonds. I'm going to specify the row and plant spacing. Then I'm going to choose the plant date, which is several years ago. Then for variety, I'm going to choose Butte with Viking rootstock. And for this field, I'm going to add one more variety. And I'm going to select Monterey with the same rootstock. If you would plant or record a orchard with pollinator trees, you can also check this male checkbox that marks that variety, that tree, as a pollinator. And once all that is filled in, click Save, and our almond orchard has been created. Now let's navigate back to the main application. And here we're presented with a dashboard where we can see statistics for our farms and crops. And if you look on the main menu on the left, we can see permanent crop and row crop management areas where we can start managing our crop information. I just switched over to one of my other test accounts that has more information in it. Now I want to give you a quick overview of all the menu options you see on the left. I'll give you a quick explanation what you can do in each management area and how you can possibly customize it for your needs. And I'll start with dashboards. In AgNote, you will have more than one dashboard available to you. The main dashboard will be always available, and that's where you can see like your high-level account metrics. But then you will also have a dashboard if you have permanent crops, so dashboard for permanent crops, a separate dashboard for produce crops, and a separate dashboard for row crops. Each user in AgNote can customize the dashboards the way they want to see them. To customize a dashboard, we need to go to the right and hover over to on the Charts tab. And now on this menu, we can reorder the charts and we can also turn them on or off. We can also customize each individual chart on the dashboard. For example, if the chart has a lot of data sets and we want to make it wider, we just click on this dotted line on the upper left corner. Some charts have filters, and if you click on this filter, now we can select or deselect which data sets we want to see on this chart. Next, let's look at the crop management areas in AgNote. Crop data management is most likely the reason why you registered for AgNote's account in the first place. And how about we start with row crops? So let's go to row crops and plantings. At the first glance, the layout may look busy, but once we understand how things are laid out here, it will become logical and simple to us. Each row on this grid is our farm field. Current column is our current season. Next column is where we plan our next season. In previous column, we can see what we had planted earlier. Far left column is where we can find our company and property details. Next, let's look at one individual planting. And how about we look at the current planting for field 202. On the top line, we can see when the crop was planted or harvested. On the middle line, we can see planted crop and variety, along with harvested yield. And at the bottom, we have planting trackers. Here we can track our planting inputs, planting spray applications, completed tasks, irrigations, any planting related files, and scouting results. Next, if we want to see planting history for one field, we can click on this All Plantings link. If we want to see this field on a map, we just need to click on the field name. Here we can also print or email this map to someone. If we would like to compare the current plantings with some plantings in a history, we can easily do that by navigating back the previous column. And finally, if you want to see the farm fields for only one farm, we can easily filter that down by selecting that farm up on top. The row crop planting management area, you can think of it as your farm's radar. Here you can see what is currently planted, you can see what is going to be planted next, and at the same time you can see recent crop history. And once the current season is completed, so all crops are harvested, it is really easy to move the current plantings to the previous column and the next plantings into current column. While we're here still on row crops, let's look at the annual harvest view. Any row crop, any current row crop planting can be moved into annual harvest view. A good crop candidate for annual harvest view are crops which are planted in the ground for several years, and then they are harvested multiple times in a year. A good example would be alfalfa. So we plant alfalfa in the ground for multiple years, and then we cut it multiple times in a calendar year. This view is allowing us to focus on each individual harvest. Again, we can see the whole field on a row, then we can see details for each harvest, and of course we can see year-to-date statistics on the far right, and also we can navigate between calendar years. Next, let's check out produce or vegetable crop management area. This management area has specific functionalities for vegetable growers. Since vegetable crop seasons are shorter, here we can plan up to 3 crops per year, and we can do so for the current year or next year. In this management area, we can also split fields. It is very common for vegetable growers to grow multiple crops or varieties in the same field. For example, in this field we have broccoli and lettuce planted. And just like the other management areas we saw, here we can navigate between the calendar years or seasons. Next, let's look at permanent crops management area. If we have multiple permanent crops in our account, for example, almonds and pistachios, each crop will have its own management area. This way we can focus on one crop at a time. So let's click on almonds. By now, this layout will look familiar to us. The focus here is on individual permanent crop seasons. The row on this grid is our orchard. In the middle, we have our current season. On a column to the right, we can start planning our next season. And on the left, we can view our previous season. This column, we can also navigate further back. On the far left column, we can view our orchard on a map. And there we can also see what varieties are planted in this orchard. While we are on one of the crop management areas, I want to point out that Reports tab on the far right. This Reports tab will be available on most of the pages in AgNote, but the reports will be specific for each page. For example, since we are on permanent crops page now, on this tab we can see only reports for permanent crops. These reports can be quickly downloaded or emailed to someone. And that was a quick overview of crop management areas in AgNote. These crop management areas will show up on the menu only if you have these crop types in your account. For example, if you don't have any permanent crops, you will not see the permanent crops option on the main menu. Next, I will quickly go through the other management areas on the main menu. Under Administration, we can manage account users, companies, properties. If you need to change your property outline, you can do that here. Next, we can manage our harvest methods. For this, I'll open row crop management area. It will be easier to explain. Before we can record harvests, we need to create a harvest method. Because, for example, this triticale can be harvested as grain or can be green chopped, and each harvest method can be recorded differently. Again, using this triticale as an example, the harvest yields can be recorded as a tons or bushels. For each harvest method, we can also set the moisture percentage to which the final yield will need to be adjusted. Next, on the main navigation, we have scheduled reports. There we can schedule any available report in AgNote to be emailed to us. Spray products is where we can manage our spray products, including pricing. Business partners is where we maintain our business partner list. For example, companies where we buy our chemicals, seed, or where we sell our final product to. Under management, we can manage our account crops, varieties, and rootstocks. Here we can also choose in what color each crop will show up on the map. On crop plants page, we can create new or modify existing plants, which can later be applied to any crop or season. The crop plants can also be used for seasonal cost estimation. On Inputs page, we can manage our input information. Here we can also choose in what color each input will show up in our crop management areas. Before I go to Completed Tasks page, I will open Row Crops Management area. Here what I want to point out is the Completed Tasks tracker for one individual planting. The Completed Tasks page is a good place if you would like to see only the completed tasks. Here you can also add new completions or update existing ones. Each crop here will also have its own dedicated page. Purchase orders is a convenient place where we can create a new or reprint an existing purchase order. Here we can also email the purchase order directly to our vendor. Work orders are a convenient place where we can track our to-do tasks. What's unique about AgNote's work orders is that if the work order is created using mobile application, it will mark the location of where the work was identified and will put that on the map. In this work order management area, we can see all the open work orders, to whom they are assigned to. We can view on a map where the work was identified. We can view work order related images. We can print the work orders, or we can email them to someone. Next on the list we have water sources. If we are planning to track irrigations, we will need to have water sources saved in AgNote. In the water source management area, we can keep detailed information about each water source. Here we can also save water flow tests, water quality tests, and water source images. And lower below, we also have water source map, which we can print or share with someone. And the final item we have in the main navigation is field mapping. Here we can view field maps for each company. We can toggle between currently planted crops, previous, or next. Here we can also draw notes on a map before we print or email the map. Or we can share a live map link with someone. If we choose to share a live link with someone, the recipient will get an email with the link in it, which when clicked on will take the user to the map just like one we see here on the screen. And there we have it. If you watched this video all the way to the end, I truly appreciate your time. This was a high-level overview. There are a lot more nifty functionalities in AgNote that we could talk about. If you do have any questions, please contact us. Thank you.